Big Sam, what up? Give people a chance to jump on. Sam, I was going to go live earlier, and I saw you live, and I didn't want to go live when you were going live. It's funny, you and KD were both going live at the same time. You guys got to do a video together. Yeah, you guys definitely got to do one. AJ Smooth, what's going on? All right, so I wanted to talk today. I have some topics. I'm going to do my best to answer questions. I know that that I'm not the best at following this comment scroll on Instagram. I'm still getting this thing down, but I wanted to talk a little bit today about loyalty. Kiva, what up? Your name came up the other day when I was hanging out with Augustus. Hope you are well. And loyalty is something that I actually spoke about in the Augustus talk. If you guys haven't seen, it is, I want to say Augustus Invictus for President is the Instagram. Not the Instagram, the YouTube. You should go on there. And doing great. Hell! Adrian, I saw that video earlier with a house on fire, and I will be honest with you, I was ready to lose my shit. I said, you have to be fucking kidding me. And I like how your first response was, it's not my house. I needed to hear that at that moment, but I'm glad everything's well. So loyalty is the topic of the day, and if you guys have questions about that specifically, I think that that'd be a good way for the people who are watching to contribute. I usually get the gamut of questions, on MMA and business and homeschooling and all this other stuff. We can get to all that, but loyalty is the one thing. So with loyalty, I have a couple of sayings on it, right? So loyalty is an investment, not a debt. One of the big mistakes that people make is they think loyalty is, well, I've done this for this person and they owe me loyalty as a result of it. Now, the problem with that is you should incentivize people to be loyal to you. But if you are sort of contracting them to be loyal to you or to give you some sort of return on that loyalty, that is not what loyalty is about. That's an actual debt. And if that's the case, if you're going to put somebody in a position where they are going to be indebted to you, the ethical thing to do is let them know that at the beginning, right? So I use my school as an example often. And one of the things in my school is I will have students that I've taken care of for a significant amount of time, and then they disappear, right? And for a long time, I'll tell you, a long time, this is a very underdeveloped position that I've had in my philosophy, my personal philosophy and beliefs. My position was that I've done so much for these people, they owe me. And it was wrong. It was incorrect. It was weak. It was slave-minded, actually. The stronger position is I'm going to do these things for these people because I am in a position to do these things. If I am doing it with the expectation of return, well, if it's a debt that I plan on claiming one day, then the ethical thing to do is let them know at the beginning. Like, listen, I'm going to do all this extra shit for you, but you owe me, for the most part. Get them to agree to that in whatever fashion that the two of you want to come to an agreement, and then you carry on. But a lot of people, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they try to collect loyalty after the fact. And it ties us into another position, which is the only way people let you down is if you have inaccurately set your expectations. All right. So let's take the personal relationship dynamic out of it for a second and just look at, business, right? Let's look at business. Somebody joins my school and they sign a contract, right? We call it an enrollment agreement, by the way, because it sounds a lot more pleasant, but it's a fucking contract. You're signing it. The terms are on it. It's a legally enforced, government-backed agreement that we're coming to. So if somebody signs that contract and in 2 months they decide, to break the terms of the contract, I have a legal recourse. or I have a recourse in general. In that particular example, it's a legal one. I could, send them to collections. I could, leverage the fact that I have this document that they committed to sort of further incentivize them to, abide by the terms that we agreed on. But whatever the case is, I have a recourse. Now, if somebody started hanging out with me, what's up, Charles? If somebody started hanging out with me and I, started buying the guy lunch, and I remember I had a student who I think is on his 4th or 5th school now, but at the time, one of the things we would do during his lunch break at work is he and I would train together, and I, at the time, was a black belt. He was a white belt. He was a likable guy, and I invested a lot of time in him. The investment wound up not paying off, but it would be, dare I say, unethical for me to demand that he somehow return the generosity, that I gave him. It actually cheapens what I've done for him if I sit here and demand that he return it. It's sort of like, let's say you see a homeless man on the street. In our home, we call those, instead of saying homeless man every time, we just use a nickname. We call them bums in my house, right? So let's say you see a bum on the street, and if you call them a homeless man, that's fine. You can go ahead. Waste of verbiage, if you ask me. But you see a bum on the street, and he's starving, right? It's freezing out right now. He's freezing. You give him money. And then the bum hits the lotto. And then you go and you somehow think that he owes you something because when he was down and out, you helped him out. And people do this all the time, right? We don't even have to give the bum example. We could look at, people who, families, the person dies and everyone's fighting over the money. I've always said I will never fight over somebody's money, other than my own, right? But this mindset that you owe me, saying that somebody owes you something is saying that there's some sort of agreement that was had before where, whatever you invested was supposed to be returned. And most of the time when we're expecting people to be loyal to us, that's simply just not the case. So what winds up happening is you have people, and in the martial arts, this is as fucking common as, belts. You have the good-hearted, well-intended instructor who, for the majority of his career, becomes the whipping post. He becomes the beaten down shell of his former self because all he does is give, all the while expecting somebody to give him something in return, right? I'm going to use a different example. It's going to be a little bit more adult themed, not over the top, but a little bit more adult themed. Gentlemen, to the gentlemen who are watching this, and women, you will understand the references too, but specifically to the gentlemen based on their experiences, what do we think of a girl who is willing to do whatever you want the first time you meet her? Now, compare her to the same, I guess, caliber, quality of girl or woman who says, you know what, you're going to have to sort of invest a little bit more before you start sort of unlocking the rewards, right, of this relationship. We'll say it that way. This is somebody that you usually gain a little bit more respect for. It's somebody who has, to use a Dr. Phil quote, and Dr. Phil says a lot of wacky shit, but man, this fucking quote is gold. We train people how to treat us, right? So in the martial arts world, all these instructors that, they give and give and give and give, and they have these great reputations, and all these people, they speak so highly of them. Oh, this guy is the best. He'll do anything for you. He'll give you the shirt off of his back. I'm not that guy. I used to be that guy, right? And I'm not going to sit here and denigrate that guy. But what I will say is that we should be sort of influencing our environment based on decisions that we are consciously making by standards that we have to live with, right? I want to design my life. I want to design my environment. I want to design my tribe. I even want to design my mindset, right? So for me, there are people who know me who I will give them everything. I've given everything from money to people living in my home, to lending them my car, to letting them sleep in the school, to not charging them, dues, to giving people jobs when I didn't need to hire anybody. I remember one guy I used to spend, we'd be in his car talking for 2-3 hours, about his mindset and about what he was going through, his depression. Thought the guy was suicidal at the time, to be honest. And I put the time in. Just one bad day he had with another one of the instructors, and told everybody to go fuck ourselves, and never saw him again. There was a time where I was bitter about that. Now what I do is I sit back and I expect people to earn the benefits they get of my invested time and energy, right? If you're looking at my coaching students pay me a lot of money. They pay me a lot of money, and that allows me to leverage them into the change that they hire me to enact in them, right? Nobody's going to give me thousands of dollars, and then I tell them about themselves and they tell me to go fuck myself. It's a very expensive hour, right? Everybody has to sit there and take it. It's one of the reasons why, I get to charge all that money. But another thing is, I know that this person has already invested in me, right? So I'm able to sort of open up and give them my best, not just because they've bought my time, but because I understand I'm not putting myself in a relationship where I'm going to wind up losing more than I've gained, right? One of I'm not going to get too specific here, but a good friend of mine, longtime friend of mine in the martial arts community, one of the people whose skills, whose abilities I respect, like top 3 martial artists I've ever worked with, easily, has been abused over and over and over and over again. Why? Because he gives everything to everybody. And the problem is he winds up with nothing. That's exactly what happened with him. To this day, I'm loyal to him. He's loyal to me. He and I have always dealt with each other on a sort of equitable relationship and dynamic. But think about how many people over the years that you've known, doesn't have to be in martial arts, who do everything for everybody, right? But nobody's ever there for them. And then they sit there in their misery, and they sit there, saying, either getting bitter at the world, or even worse, somehow saying that the sacrifices they've made are somehow moral or to be admired or virtuous, and I think that's complete bullshit, right? If you're somebody that gives your resources away, usually one of the things that is given away along with it is any accountability, is any pressure. It's hard. And one of the things I tell my instructors in the school is, listen, if you don't have the support of the parents, do not fall in love with one of these kids. Don't sit there and say, oh man, this kid, I come to teach this kid every single day. He brightens up my day. This kid's the best. He's going to be amazing. Listen, if his parents aren't as invested in the program, that kid isn't going to be shit. And he's not going to be here much longer than any other student. I've seen it happen time and time again. And I speak from experience. It's happened with me. I've taught kids who I've considered almost family to me. Where are they? Gone. On their 2nd, 3rd, 4th school, bad-mouthing the jungle gym. And I don't hold it against them. It is how I trained people to treat me at that point. All right? So it's difficult for people to somehow, they see it as a paradox. I don't see it as such, but they see it as a paradox that they want to be helpful. They want to invest. They want to be charitable, right? But then I'm telling them, well, listen, you need to have a criteria for that. You need to have some sort of, accurately set expectation. Somebody needs to invest in you if you're going to invest in them past a certain point. It's paradoxical to them. But to me, the solution to that is tribe, right? It's tribe. You guys should really listen to the talk that I had with Augustus. Augustus and I have had many, many great talks, and, he's so fucking smart. He's out of his mind. I love Augustus. Out of his mind, but smart as shit. And he and I, he brings out just great conversations in me. And maybe I and him, because he and I have had plenty of great ones. But in that, I talk about the idea of sacrifice, right? I talk about, where does the concept of sacrifice fit into all this? And, the easy example is, I look at my kids And those of you that have children, you'll agree, I think, without much pushback, any one of us would die for our kids in a heartbeat, in an instant. Not second guessing it. In an instant, we would sacrifice ourselves for our kids. Why? Because we see our kids as a reflection of us, as an extension of us, and allowing them to live in doing what we could, even if sacrificing our up to and including our own lives, we still live in them. We understand that to a certain point. And that is when this formula of loyalty that I'm talking about gets flipped in the opposite direction. My kids, I just had a conversation with my mother, of all people, about this earlier. And one of the things that my father and I did not have a lot of conversations. We probably, and I don't think I've ever even said this publicly, but I don't think we've had, I can count them on my hand, the amount of conversations my father and I had. My father's great value to me was in modeling behavior. My father showed me what it was to be a man. He showed me what it was to be a husband, to be a father. He didn't explain these things to me. He showed me. He lived it. And one of the things that he was a staunch believer and supporter of, advocate for, is not being your kid's friend. Right? He was not my friend. He was my father. And it was never ambiguous. It was never misunderstood whether or not he was my parent or my buddy. Right? Because his job, like right now, my father passed away. My father lives in me. My father lives in my brother, my younger brother. He lives in my children. He lives in my brother's children. And what is the model that is carried on with us? My mother's siblings, my father's siblings. I don't think anybody's married once, and was able to live their lives with their first husband or wife. It was a very tumultuous road for a lot of my family on both sides. Well, my father, he showed me that you marry a woman, you stick by your woman. You do what needs to be done. You don't walk out. He showed me that no matter what happens, you go to work. Right? People, like my father was betrayed by friends throughout the years, and one of the superpowers my father had was cutting them off like fucking cancer. He would cut people off without a second thought. And it was that the investment and the return on investment, it wasn't until years later that I understood. I understood what he was saying. The one time I remember I was driving him to the airport because he was going to Puerto Rico right before Hurricane Maria. He was laughing and joking. I got a date with Maria. And he's out of his fucking mind. Going to Puerto Rico. Oh, I'm going to hang out, make sure the house is okay. He and my mother had a small little house. We still do in the town where he grew up. And on the way to the airport, what's up, Stephanie? On the way to the airport, he said, the one thing you can count on in life, and he had never started a sentence or a conversation with something as epic as that before. So I was all ears. I'm driving. I'm like slowing down, right? And he goes, people will let you down. I was like, fuck. Are you serious? He's in his 70s, 70 plus years. He's been in a war. He's been in poverty. He's been, he's owned a home. He's gotten married. He's had children. He's had multiple jobs. He's experienced, all sorts of shit, throughout his life. And the one thing he says is people will let you down. And I'll be damned if that isn't the truth. To add a little bit more depth to the concept though, the second half of that, which I added, is, if you give them the opportunity to. You can't be upset if people break the expectations or let down the expectations that you put on them. You have to adjust your expectations. That's where the master mindset comes in, by the way. If I'm focused on what it is that I need to do, on what my job is, on what it is that I'm investing my time in, then I don't lose anything by having somebody not give me a return on my investment. I don't lose anything by somebody deciding that all the energy that was invested in them, they're not going to reciprocate and they're going to move on. I don't lose anything if my expectations set accurately. There hasn't been one person in my life, and this is before martial arts, after martial arts, it's after I began martial arts, There hasn't been one person in my life that through investing in them, I didn't become a better person myself. Better at being a man. And I don't mean this touchy-feely, I'm such a good guy. Like, I don't mean that nonsense. I mean an effective operator in the war called life. I've learned about how people operate, how people deal with one another, what people's motivations are. I have an insight now that is a direct result of me being taken advantage of, me being naive, me placing false expectations on people, me being a tyrant. Every single one of those ultimately dysfunctional ways to be all taught me lessons that I still carry with me. Right? So when it comes to what it is that you're going to do, when dealing with loyalty with an individual, my charge to you is if you're going to expect something back from them, then be strong enough to let them know at the front end of that investment. Don't sit here and be nice to somebody, and then when they don't reciprocate, say, how could you be this way to me? I've been so good to you. It's obvious how they're being that way. That's who they are, right? A universal that you guys could write down if you're taking notes right now. People are always doing the best they can. The problem is sometimes it's not all conscious, right? Sometimes it's subconscious. Sometimes people have these driving forces they're not even aware of, certainly not in contact with, certainly not in control of. Everybody's doing the best they can. When your cousin, the crackhead, steals your TV, how could he do that? Because he's addicted to crack. There's no mystery in it. It's just that, again, this is us having some sort of catharsis, venting, letting it out because we set an expectation that was inaccurate, that we had no business setting in the first place. The old saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. There's a reason why this wisdom is old. There's a reason why these things are known by people a shit ton older than us, right? So, for me, what do? I talked about in the conversation I had with Augustus in my school, in martial arts, and I use these examples a lot, Sometimes I feel like I'm just like a broken record, but I realize that not everybody saw every one of my conversations. But in the martial arts school, one of the things you get a lot of is, we're like a family, and my reply to that is, all I need to do is show up, give you a couple $100 and I'm your brother. That's not what right. So stop saying that bullshit. That's marketing bullshit. If you join my school, you are not in my family. You have joined my school. There is a family at the top of the mountain in my school. When you join, you're at the base of the mountain. At the base of the mountain is an exchange, right? What's the phrase of the day, right? Quid pro quo. You invest your money in lessons, and you receive those lessons as agreed upon when you signed the contract to join. But then a funny thing happens after time. People start investing in more and more. And as they invest more and more in my school, they start getting more and more. All the fighters that fight for me now, that have ever fought for me, never gotten a dime from them. Never asked for anything from any one of my fighters. Why? Because, it's not I enjoy coaching. I enjoy doing what I do. I don't feel like there's a debt. I don't feel like there's ever a point where there's something else I'd rather do or somewhere else I'd rather be. So if I'd rather be right there, why would I charge them? Why would I throw money into it, right? But in the beginning, yeah, there's money. Why? Because I don't fucking know you. You're not my brother yet. The people that join my school, and it's a little bit harsh, I understand, right? That's me somehow doing public relations. I don't want to even know your name when you join my school. The way that my systems are in my academy, I'm not there when you take your first class. You're with an instructor who gives a fuck about you, and it's his job to give a fuck about you, right? But I'm investing all of my energy in relationships that create that synergy. And when you join, somebody's giving me $200 a month to join my school, and they're getting the classes that they signed up for. And when they are ready for more, there's going to be more waiting for them. I met my wife in my school. Everybody I consider a brother I met through the martial arts. The overwhelming majority of them through my academy. Right? The 20, 30 people I'm closest to, you know, outside of my blood family are all from martial arts. Right? Or right next to martial arts. All right? So it's, if nothing else, consistent. All right? All the feel-good stuff, you got to understand. Like, think about all the criticisms we have in society today. You know, the sensitivity, the people that, you know, they want things like thought crimes, hate crimes, and all these other sort of prerequisites to sort of legal, you know, consequences that completely go against what America's about. Well, think about what's at the heart of it. The heart of it is these people are weak. And because they're weak, they've become fragile. And because they're fragile, then they're sitting there trying, again, to do the best they can. They're trying to do the best they can, but at everybody else's expense. You know, I think it's backwards, right? But you can't train like a bitch and fight like a barbarian. You know, it's all consistent. All these wacky shirts I wear, they're all consistent. The way I raise my sons, it's consistent. The relationship I have with my wife, it's consistent. My dynamic with my students at the school, it's consistent. How I'm training a dog is consistent. All right, those of you that have been watching my dog training videos, Drenger's a fucking beast, man. I got to tell you, I didn't like this little fucker when I got him. And the reason I didn't like him is because he was a mirror of the type of trainer I was. And I was a terrible trainer. So I looked at him and I just saw terrible shit, right? And it was a while before I realized it wasn't a picture, it was a mirror. And he's taught me a patience that I haven't had for a long time. Because a dog don't give a fuck. You know, you're either talking to him or you're not. And he has sort of reopened and started to develop a component of who I am that I left a long time ago, right? So what do we got here? I know there's so many fucking comments, and it tells me when people join. If you guys have questions, put them down. I'm gonna go through the questions now that I see. All right. What do we got? What do we got? Big Frank is in the house. KD says, don't whisper to the beaver and then get mad when she doesn't swing with the monkey. What the fuck are you talking about? Listen, KD, I gotta be honest. I was watching a live video earlier, and that fucking mustache of yours, everything that you write now, I'm like, this is dialogue from a porn movie. All right. MSEP sent a request to be in your live video. Who's MSEP? I don't know who that is. Ant Silverback says, what's up, Ant? He says, you have to have the ability to cut people off. They mean you no good. You know, it's one of the hardest things to do. Why? Because we allow ourselves to build these relationships with people, right? So if you ever heard me talk about love, the idea of love, I see it as a codependency, but not with all the negative connotations, as hard as that is to accept. But what winds up happening is we take these people, and as we scale up our relationship with them, when we are not in control of this and not in touch and aware of these different variables and relationships, we wind up having this connection with this person as a component of our identity, right? So when they wind up being no good for us, they're already a part of us. And all we know is that if we cut them off in that situation, we feel that void. And we avoid having that hole, that gap when they leave. So we wind up dealing with them as if they're a component of us. And the stronger you are as an individual, the easier it will be for you to make those decisions. To tell yourself this person is no good. right? I know business owners. I've been consulting small business owners for the better part of a decade at this point. And one of the biggest obstacles, there's two big obstacles that I've found with small business owners. Implementation, they don't fucking get it done. And two, they don't want to make anybody upset. They don't want to fire the guy that should have been fired fucking 6 months ago. Right? They don't want to have the rough conversation with the employee that's costing them tens of thousands of dollars a year. Right? They don't want to do these things because they want everybody to like them. As if that's even fucking possible. Right? Steph says, people are always doing the best they can. That's right. That's right. Roland, what's up? My man Alex, Artful Photos. What's up, brother man? Alex, one of my favorite people on the planet. Ant says, are you writing a book? I thought I heard that. Oh, man, way to bring that up. While you're at it, why don't you give me a paper cut and pour lemon juice on it? Yes, I've been writing my book on Tribe for some time now. I'm almost embarrassed to say that I'm continuing to work on it. But it is a work in progress. I got to be honest, man. I'm writing stuff, and then I'm like, you know what? I should redo this. I shouldn't say this. I should include this instead of this. And it's become, I'll assess my own situation right now. It's become a source of anxiety, of stress. And I'm like, you know what? I got other productive things I could do. I'm not going to fucking stress out over this bullshit right now. And obviously that's not the way to do it. So I appreciate you asking me about it. And I'm going to further pressure myself. Tomorrow I'm going to write another chapter. There, boom, done. Oh, that's Marlo. My mistake. It would have been funny if I pressed the button and you're like taking a dump or something in your house. Big Jim in the house. He says, I've gotten to the point where I'm quick to get rid of people who won't get rid of the people they should. I got no time to listen to that shit. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Because it's just a matter of time. It's very hard to build an alliance with somebody. And meanwhile, they have a relationship with somebody who is a component of who they are. So building an alliance with them, you have to include the dynamic that they have with that other person. And it's a lot of fucking work, right? It's a lot of fucking work. And if it's not productive, usually it isn't. It's very, very difficult to find a powerful slave mind, right? It's just, it's a little oxymoronic, if that can be turned into an adjective. So what else, guys? The other day, I did one of those Ask Me Anythings. And what's up, Harry? I did one of those Ask Me Anythings, and it wouldn't let me fucking respond to it. So for all those people that sent me questions, my bad. I don't know. I thought I got fucking zapped again like I did on Facebook. And said, I won't lie, I first tuned in because people said you were racist. I wanted to see. It's been a few years, and all I see is raw truth. Salute to you. I appreciate it, Ann. I really do. I get that a lot. And, understand, like, it's difficult nowadays with such variety in people's philosophies and preferences for living. It's very difficult to have conversations where even the terms are consistent, right? So if I'm being called a racist, okay, what does racist mean? You won't find 5 people that'll have the same definition for that, You're a racist if you judge people by their color. Is that what a racist is? So by color, do you mean like the hue of their skin? Do you mean their ethnicity? Do you mean their nationality? Do you mean their political positions? Do you we have to be able to have a conversation that includes terms that are consistent. And when you're having a conversation with somebody and they're using these terms, and it's just for maintaining the pace of a conversation, it's not like there's necessarily any manipulation going on. But if somebody calls you a racist, you're like, I'm not a fucking racist. Well, it's like, well, wait a minute, what's a racist? That's how I'm going to respond. I've been called a racist a fucking shit ton, like I think at least 30-40% of my school is black. Do me a favor, please don't let them know that I'm a racist, right? Paul Grant, Joel, I got a bunch of fighters that are black, please don't let them know. My first black belt was black. Please don't let him know I'm a racist. It's just, it gets silly, and it leads to another point where, and I've said this before in a meme that I shared, the internet isn't real, guys. Social media isn't real. I have these conversations. I enjoy them, right? I enjoy, oh, by the way, I just reminded myself, if you guys are not on my email list, go to masterchim.com and put your email in, because that is also one of the reasons why I do this, to bring people, off of the social media and into a connection with me where I could actually start, sharing stuff with you unfiltered. But when people, again, build the identity, their own identity, and in it is their approval, reputation, or their standing, on social media, like, understand this is a conversation that is not real. This is not a real conversation. Right now, like, one of the things that I do, Frank says, far from a racist. Frank is one of my favorite Dominicans, and there's only like 3 of them, right? Sam Stern, YouTube, Pressure Con 216, Master Chim on Tribe, great video. Appreciate it, Sam. Sam's the man. But when I look at how people build themselves to exist in relationship to their reputation online, we're not even standing in front of each other right now. You can't see me. You can't smell me. I just showered. I smell good. You can't, I can't use my full ability to communicate with you. This is all artificial. And you have to just categorize it as that. When you have a philosophy, that, I'm going to make everybody like me. I don't want anybody to dislike me. Well, get off of social media. I'll tell you right now, because your message is not up to you. It is filtered. It is altered. It is not true communication. Communication, I've always said communication is in the catch, not the throw. Well, what you are throwing is not completely up to you on social media. So what they catch can't be a true representation of what you wanted to communicate in the first place. On Facebook, I am shadow banned, right? So I've had like between 54 and 58,000 fans on the Master Chim page for like 3 years, 4 years, something like that. It's artificial. It's artificial. I look at these guys. One of the guys that I listen to a lot is, let me answer this first. What's this? MT Cliff. What's up? How would you say you've evolved or progressed to the ladder of strength since way back, since you first started recording the Pressure Project? Well, significantly, but not because of the Pressure Project. And this is sort of like the point. I've been doing the Pressure Project, 5 years now? 6, 5, I don't know. Maybe one of you guys remember. It's been a long fucking time. It's like one of those things I don't remember before I did it. It's like I've always done it. But I've evolved because, of my children, because of my marriage. I moved to Pennsylvania. I started shooting guns and going hunting, right? Or hiking, right? Deer hiking, bear hiking. I started learning how to dog train. I started business groups, and my entire life, Sam Stearns, is 6 years. Holy shit, 6 years. So like my daughter was born after the Pressure Project. So it's like I've evolved tremendously because I've evolved, but not because of the Pressure Project. I will say through the Pressure Project, I've met some incredible people, and it's very hard. It's difficult to assess the value of those connections if I haven't met people in person, right? I just had a shout out to the Flavels, right? I just had them over. Matt and Mandy Flavel of the Ostrich Folk Assembly. They had an event here in the Poconos, and I invited them over, and we hung out, and that was important for me because I have such a tremendous respect for what they're doing and what they've been through. I've met Henrik and Lana from Red Ice in person. These are all people who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I've met people that I used to respect, met in person, I no longer respect. But you know what? Meeting them in person and seeing the dynamic of the difference between who they are online and in person is valuable. Because who you are when I'm standing in front of you is the only you that fucking matters. Right? I don't care about your filters and your edited videos and the soundtracks and all this, I'm not into all that shit. If anybody that's met me, you get in front of me, I keep it as real in person as I do online. There's not a fucking thing fake about me. There never has been, right? So I don't expect everybody to like me. I don't expect everybody to, certainly not to agree with me. I got some fucking opinions, I really got some opinions. But if you respect anything, you better fucking respect what I stand for, because I stand for being consistent, right? I am as consistent as I could possibly be, and embedded in who I am and who I try to evolve to be over time is increasing that consistency. Kiva says, maybe I'll get out and meet you sometime. You're always welcome. Absolutely. Big Gabby, that's true. What's up, Gab? Now that I know that's Gabby, the cleaning service from last time. So think about how many times, somebody's written something online, and you're welcome, man. Somebody's written something online, and you've gotten tight, pissed off. Like, this motherfucker, I can't believe this guy just... Understand, you have no fucking idea what the intent of that person was. Now, it might have been they didn't mean to be offensive. They didn't mean to upset you. They didn't mean to be an asshole or to trigger you or whatever. In which case, you're being an asshole. Or they meant to make you have that effect, right? To have that reaction. And you're having it, which means instead of an asshole, you're an idiot, right? So that's your choice. Joe from the Bronx says, if everyone likes you, there's something wrong with you. Absolutely. There's only 3 people that everybody likes. I remember one of my black belts that I threw out. He was somebody that wanted to get along with everybody. And I said, there's only 3 people you could be. You're either a politician, a merchant, or a hooker. And I told him, you get to choose which one you are. But you can't be friends with everybody unless you're those 3. And if you're those 3, you're not friends with anybody, right? You're on a mission that is all your own. I'm going to call you Mount Cliff. Thanks for answering, MC. Would it be accurate to say the evolution has come about primarily due to reciprocal value rather than just the value you find in producing your own content? Absolutely. I mean, I am a content creator. That's what I do. But my content transcends what I do, on Instagram and Facebook and on the Pressure Project, YouTube, and all that other shit. I'm always trying to just become more. I'm always trying to become better. A couple of weeks ago, I was with my boy Jesse from New World down in Florida, on a field getting fucking bitten by German Shepherds and, training dogs. I don't have to do that. I do that because it is a passion of mine to become more. And the psychology of dog training is just it is one of the most amazing things I've ever been exposed to in my life. KD, who was on earlier, one of the major influencers in my early development in building this relationship with dog training, right? So, I'm fortunate because I have a certain amount of standards, and these standards, and this is a common theme in my coaching students' missions, because I have a standard, an expectation of how I'm going to act, of who I'm going to surround myself by, I repel those people that are incongruent with my mission. I don't have to do it consciously. Every once in a while, you got to cut somebody off. We spoke about this already, right? A few moments ago. But if you are somebody who carries himself dedicated and focused and driven on a mission that you have designed on your own, then people will recognize that. Strong people will be attracted to your mission. You'll wind up surrounding yourself with people. Like, I have a lot of people who are my students in my school. And just the dynamic, it's teacher, student. But these people I have a tremendous amount of respect for because their standards are equivalent to my own. They don't complain. They don't get emotional. They understand they have a mission. Big A says, how do you keep so focused when branching out into so many different avenues? Well, it's funny. Somebody asked me this the other day. And it was, how do you run a school, run a coaching business? The only thing I do is be me. That's the only thing I do. It's like, and I'm going to reach a little bit with this example, but just to illustrate the point, it's like, how do you drive cars, take showers, make phone calls, watch TV shows, and cook meals, like in the same day? It's like, well, that's just a day. That's just a normal day. That's the way that I look at it. I look at it as just being me. And this is a good thing that somebody had brought up in my last video that I wanted to touch on. I'm going to go to 11 o'clock, so about 13 more minutes. They commented something. I didn't get to sort of flesh it out because I didn't realize that Instagram actually shuts you off in an hour. On YouTube, I'm used to going hours at a time. He said that, no, it's not about, finding your passion and, that's bullshit. It's about working and doing what you need to do to work. And I think he's conflating things. I think it's a false dichotomy, right? There are more than two options than the one you think that I said and the one that you're saying as the proper one. I've had to bust my ass for over 2 decades trying to build my school. And in the beginning, that meant when I first started in a karate school, I started my jiu-jitsu program, I was only a blue belt, right? And that's unheard of to start a jiu-jitsu school as a blue belt. My instructor was a purple belt. So I didn't have a black belt to be under. I didn't give a fuck. I knew that I was driven. I knew I was going to put in the work. I obviously had an ability, for jiu-jitsu. I was capable and I loved it. So I was willing to do the work, but just because I loved it doesn't absolve me from the work, right? So sure, but if you really love it, it's not work. Well, bullshit. In the beginning, it's a lot of fucking work. But then what winds up happening is you get to the point where the only thing that's left is the passion and you pursuing that passion. In the beginning, I was at a karate school. Before class, we'd have to lay down the mats. We train. Then I'd have to mop the mats, dry the mats, pick all the mats back up, fold them in the changing room. In the second school, with my boy Alex, Artful Photos, he was, talk about a sent from the gods. I was getting thrown out of the first school. I was dating the owner's niece, and that ended, and somehow I wasn't really welcome. I can't blame her, right? It's just the way things work. But don't you know, Alex, came into my life at that point, and he was like, hey, I have a Taekwondo school. I only use it 3 days a week. If you want to, use it the other days. So I'm like, yeah. So I went and did that, and I was a one-man show, right? Answering the phone, signing people up, teaching all the classes. Teaching kids classes, cleaning after, people coming in and challenging me. It wasn't in the best of neighborhoods. It was fucking work, but I was driven. I had the fire to do it. Well, that fire didn't go away, but over time, you know what? I don't have to be the one answering the phones now. I don't have to be the one teaching all of the classes. I don't have to be the one, taking challenge matches, because we're in the middle of a shithole neighborhood. Right? And so as it evolves, you get to the point where, you are climbing the mountain of that particular endeavor. And it's a lot different as you're climbing up that mountain than it is the bottom. Right? So I've done that work necessary. I started in Sayak Kali, it's got to be, 7, 8 years now, something like that. And 7, 8 years, something like that. And when I first started, I have a list precepts. If you guys have ever seen or heard the Pressure Project episode where I talk about the code of 47, it's 47, life codes that I wrote because I wanted to give my guys some guidance on where my head was, something to focus on. And one of them is be a white belt in any new endeavor. Another one is keep a child's wonder. And I remember when I started SIOC, I was Master Chim with the school, but in SIOC, I was a fucking nobody. And I used to go and take privates with Nick Sakulis in Progressive Martial Arts out in Queens, incredible instructor. And being out there, it was humbling, and I remember I was putting in all this work and going out there, me and White Boy Pat, right? We were partners, and I'm like, all right, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, right? So I'm like, oh man, this is great, doing these templates and tapping, and, the SIOC system is one of the most impressive things you'll ever see. But I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, right? So I'm like, can we spar? Can we do this live? I didn't know what sparring or rolling was in jiu-jitsu, we call it. What's the version of that in SIOC? And eventually I think I guilted more than anything Nick into doing it with me. And we went, and I think there's video of it. You could actually find it. Look, Master Chim, SIOC Kali. It's me and Nick Sakulis. And he would have killed me fucking 300 times in 2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes. 60 seconds. Was fucking throwing knives at me, slicing. I was fucking lost. But I was excited because I knew I was on a ladder. And it was exciting for me at that point, being Master Chim, the head of my school. It was exciting for me to start something new, and eventually, through SIOC, I met Tuan Tom. Tuan Tom invited me to be one of the SIOC tactical group instructors. And I remember, one time, Tuan Tom introduced me to firearm training, and 90% of what I know with firearms came from Tuan Tom. And one time, we were on the firing line, right? And everybody, I think, was working rifle, right? It was maybe 8 of us lined up, and we're just running some training drills. And for the first time, the guy who was next to me, I think it was Enrique, E-Train, my man E-Train. He, one of his shell casings popped out of his rifle and landed on my neck. And I jumped like a little fucking bitch. And I didn't move the fucking, luckily the fucking rifle stayed downrange, but it had never happened to me. I wasn't even aware of it being a possibility, even though I knew that it was a possibility. I wasn't conscious of it being a possibility. So when it happened, it was like fucking something magical hit me. So I had no expectation. So I fucking jumped and everything. And I look, and it's Tuan Tom and 3 other guys who I won't mention, who are very serious dudes. And they're all looking at me with fucking disgust. And I'm just like, oh, fuck. I just wanted to fucking disappear. But it's important to be that guy. It's important to find those situations where you're that guy, right? I'm fucking born and raised in the Bronx. I'm not supposed to know how to fucking run an AR, know how to run a fucking pistol. And you learn. You put the time in. In the beginning, you're going to fucking suck. That's what happens. If you would have seen me with fucking Dringer when I first started training him, holy shit. I was like, fuck this dog. This dog is fucking retarded. I was retarded, it turns out. Oh, man. Franken says, yeah, that happened to me at the rifle range. Holy fuck, man. Well, it's real now, right? I know it now. I've since resolved the issue, right? But that's how it works. Kiva says, you trained with Harley Elmore, right? Yes, Tuan Harley. One of the greatest martial artists I ever met. If you get a chance to train with Tuan Harley, do yourself a favor and do it, because he is an amazing, amazing martial artist who has, he's trained with so many great masters and he's been training for so long and he knows so much. It's funny, when I was just a jiu-jitsu guy, my mind was closed to all of these other types of martial arts. It was, fuck that, jiu-jitsu. It's like, oh, you fucking idiot. I was such an idiot. The epiphany I had at one point, Kiva says, here in Wichita Falls, my older brother kids Oh, you're fucking Wichita Falls. That's awesome. Oh yeah, yeah. You should actually absolutely train with him. Anybody that wants to train martial arts should go to 2 on Harley. But it sounds like you already know that, so that's good. But what the fuck was I saying? I don't know. I was saying something. It'll come back to me. What was I saying? Frankie says that shit gets real hot when shell falls in your shirt. Man, I felt like such a bitch. Now, mind you, I have been flogged. I have been, OC sprayed. I've been tased. I've been, hit with Sims. I've been fucking hit with fucking 9-bangers. I've been hit with but when you don't expect some shit flips off. And I remember, when that happened, it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is why I'm with this crew, Chim says, what an idiot you were when first starting with Drenker. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Oh, I appreciate it. I'm like, damn, Jim, that's a little harsh, bro. You weren't even there. Oh, yeah, but when I was when I first started training Drenker, I remember KD was helping me out. And I was telling KD, yeah, he's really fucking stubborn. And KD had to break it down to me how, it's not that he's stubborn, it's that you're fucking terrible. It's like, wait a minute, I'm Master Chim. I can't be terrible at anything. And it's like, no, that's right, you're doing this because you're going to be terrible in the beginning, right? Oh, that's fucking awesome. My man, Big Joe from the... is that Novella? What's up, Novella? Yeah, Jim, I didn't get that first. All right, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to, Ant says, so I just got an AR, plan on going to range. Should I ignore it if that hot-ass shell touches skins? Only if there are other men around. If you're by yourself, scream like a little girl like I did. It's awesome. I think I'm going to see if I could download this and put it up on my YouTube channel. I don't know if all the comments continue, but it might not even fucking matter. But I appreciate you guys. I'm glad I did this. It was a little spur of the moment, but I had a good time. I'll try and do more of these. I'm very non-committal because sometimes I get distracted because I'm doing shit in the real fucking world. A little while ago, I was in the fucking in the woods putting up fucking trail cams and started getting real fucking dark real quick. So just living the life, motherfuckers. But I appreciate you guys. If you guys are not on my email list, go to masterchim.com and do that. You could always go to thepressureproject.com, check out episodes that are there, the YouTube, check out episodes that are there. Learn some shit, share some shit. Let me know. Let me know what the deal is. I appreciate you all. Talk to you guys soon. And as always, brothers and a couple of sisters there, pressure to power.